When the Gregory yacht sailed for the South Pacific, the members of the expedition hoped they would find a strange island and a little lost girl, and return the little girl to her mother. All this has been done. But now, when the yacht should be sailing gaily home with a happy party on board, it is tied up, helpless, at one of the piers on the island of Euclidia, the magic island of the South Seas. Mrs. Gregory, her daughter Joan, Jerry Hall, and Captain Tex Bradford are in Mrs. Gregory's cabin on the yacht, discussing the failure of their attempt to outwit G-47, the mad scientist.
Why, Tex, if this thing is just as you describe it, we're actually prisoners. Worse than prisoners. For now, we haven't even a chance of rescue from the outside world.
I'm afraid that's about the size of it, Pat.
Oh, Mother, it's almost too much, isn't it? Just a few hours after we have found each other, and we're making such happy plans to go back to your world. Then to have it all taken away from us again.
Oh, cheer up, Cleostra. Gee, how I hate that name.
My name is Joan now, Jerry, and no one need ever call me Cleostra again.
That old G-47 keeps right on calling you Cleostra.
I think G-47 will go right on doing a number of things we'll be powerless to prevent.
It looks bad now, Patricia, but there's always a way out of everything if you try hard enough.
I sure can't see any way out of this. Gee, and I thought that message to Johnson would get us rescued right away.
How did the plan fail, Tex? Have they done something to the radio that we can't communicate with Johnson?
No, the radio is all right. Jerry talked to Johnson, and Johnson repeated the message back. That part of it was all right, but G-47 also heard the message, and he knows that I've instructed Johnson not to move in our rescue without orders from me. And unless we can find some other method of communication, those orders will never get to Johnson.
But why, Tex? Why did you send Johnson such orders? Isn't there some way he could rescue us?
That's what I couldn't figure out, Mrs. Gregory.
I'm almost sure that it would be impossible to rescue anyone from this island. It would only mean the lives of everybody who tried it.
You are right, Captain Bradford. They have weapons so terrible here that a big battleship just melts away and sinks within a few minutes. And without a chance to fire a shot, its guns and engines all powerless.
Joan, my daughter, you've just heard these men talking about what they think they can do, of course. Nothing like that has actually happened.
I have seen it with my own eyes. A fine battleship sinking in 10 minutes. Everyone on board lost. And the only weapon used by the Euclideans was one of their larger ray guns, looking very much like one of your telescopes. Oh, Mother, even now you do not realize the awful power of things on this island.
Golly whiskers. Gee, that sounds like the real thing, Tex.
It is the real thing, Jerry. That's why I'm so hopeless about it all.
Why, Tex, I've never seen you act like this before. You can't mean you're giving up, that there's no possible way to get off this island?
No, I haven't given up. But there's no hope in any of the ordinary ways of doing these things. We've got to hit on some way of getting information to Johnson. Then he will have a chance to rescue us.
What's that information, Captain?
I'd rather not tell you, Jerry. At least not just now. Might be too unpleasant for you if G-47 found out you knew the only ray of hope there is. It will take time. Days, weeks, maybe months. And until then, I want to keep that to myself.
Then let's hope that guy never finds out how to read what you're thinking about.
I suggest that we try to forget all this for a few minutes and act like human beings. Come and sit by me, Joan. I can hardly realize that after 14 long years, we're really together.
Gee whiz. Look at that, Captain.
At what, Jerry?
At Joan and Mrs. Gregory. They look just alike, don't they?
They sure do, son. And especially since Joan has a dress of her mother's own.
I said that Joan would be pretty. Almost as pretty as you are, Mrs. Gregory. And she is, too.
You're a sweet boy, Jerry. You've been good company for us on this trip. Aren't you glad we brought him, Tex?
Yeah, as far as he's concerned. But I'm sorry to get anybody into this. Your dad'll be plenty worried about you, Jerry.
Oh, no, he won't. He knows I'm with you.
Well, right now, being with me is the poorest protection I can think of.
Now, Tex, dear, don't start that again. We're all in this together because of Joan and me, and we'll all get out of it together. Don't worry any more about it. Please, dear.
Mother, when you talk to the captain like that, you look at him so soft and different, and your eyes are so large and beautiful, and now your cheek is turning red. Mother, why does Captain Bradford look so uncomfortable?
Oh, boy, oh, boy.
What is the matter with you, Jerry?
Oh, nothing.
Jerry, you mustn't do that.
I'm sorry.
Mother, is Jerry not feeling well? should he laugh when he says he is sorry?
Joan, you're a very scientific young lady, and your knowledge is way beyond your years. But, well, the reason Jerry was laughing is...
Yes, Tex. What is the reason?
Look, Joan, what would you think if I called you dear?
I should think it was very silly. My name is Joan.
Yes, but look.
Give it up, Jerry. Never mind, Joan. We're not making fun of you. It's just one of those things you'll understand when we get back to the world. Back to the world.
Now, there you go again, Tex. If you can't just sit still and talk about something pleasant, then for heaven's sake do something, anything, to occupy your mind.
I know a great deal about many of the things on Euclidia. Perhaps I could tell you something that would help you.
That's true, Tex. After all, Joan knows more about this island than any of us. Probably more than we shall ever know, and we haven't asked her for any information of real value.
Well, I got an idea that the more we hear about this place, the more hopeless it's going to look.
That is true. The more you see on this island and learn about it, the more you realize that the Euclideans are the most terrible and dangerous people in the world.
Just the same, they must have overlooked something. And we'll find a method of communicating with our friends in the world outside.
Tex, I just remembered something.
Something that will help us out of this?
At least it may help us to understand it. The old sailor's diary.
I was to tell you about that pitiful old gentleman who thought he had escaped from here.
What do you mean, thought he had escaped? He did escape.
Of course he did, Joan. And he was picked up in the open sea and taken to a hospital somewhere. We heard about him on a shortwave broadcast. That's how we got the position of this island. And found you, my dear.
What did you mean by that, Joan? He thought he had escaped.
He was allowed to escape. And then when he was helpless, lost in the sea, he was picked up and brought back here to the island again.
Then those broadcasts we heard came from right here on this crazy Euclidia.
I thought there was something unnatural about the accent of the man we heard broadcasting. Someone from here, of course.
G47 himself, I think. But why go to all that trouble with the poor old sailor?
It was all a trap to get you here, Captain Bradford. I have heard your name many times, and Mother's too, although they never let me know it was my mother they were talking about.
But what did they want to get the captain down here for? Oh, I know. That formula of yours, Tex.
But why torture the poor old sailor? The broadcast would have brought us anyway.
That was something I did not just understand. They did not talk too much in my presence, but it had something to do with the diary the old man kept. The scientists wanted it, and they never found it.
That's it. G47 figured that if he allowed the old man to think he was escaping, the poor fellow would trot out the diary and try and take it with him.
What was in this diary that made it so valuable?
I am not sure, but the old sailor was allowed a great deal of freedom on the island, and I think he had found out the exact formulas and methods which made many of the Euclideans' greatest discoveries possible. And he probably had a complete map of everything contained on the island. G47 must have known and feared this.
But the diary was never found?
Never. I think it is still on the island, and although no one can think of any possible place to hide it.
Oh, I should think those rays of theirs would look through everything and show the book up mighty quick.
Sure. They can even look through cement and steel with those things.
But not through the opaque cloth. The cloth of my dress, which you used tonight.
Say, Joan, that dress of yours, when G47 came into the radio cabin and saw us with the dress, it didn't even look surprised. Said he knew we had it.
Of course he did.
You must have gone too near the door, Joan, and he saw you with my dress on.
I think not, but how else would he know?
He would know because I did not turn my dress in with the others to be destroyed.
Turn it in to be destroyed.
Destroy a lovely piece of material like that?
Every day?
Every evening. You have heard how we make a new dress every day in 300 seconds. You will see all that when G47 allows you to go through the laboratories.
Well, why 300 seconds? Say 5 minutes, Joan. You're in our world now, and we aren't so busy but what we can talk in minutes.
Yes, my dear. You will do everything as we do it now.
I like to do things your way, Mother dear.
I'm sure glad you're on our side, Joan. You're going to make a great little sidekick for me.
But I like you, Jerry. Why should I make a sidekick at you?
Joan, dear.
Oh, no. That's just my way of saying that you and I are going to get along all right.
Your conversation is confusing to me, Jerry, with your many exaggerated idiosyncrasies of expression.
Golly whiskers.
That is what I mean. golly is what you call slang, is it not?
Oh, I guess it is.
Then what are the whiskers for? I have learned that you use a great deal of slang because you're too lazy to speak correctly. But the whiskers on the golly, there's no sense to that, Jerry.
Look, you win. I give up. Forget it.
Don't look so worried, Joan. Jerry is just having a little fun with you.
I thought I was, but I got a notion she's having some fun with me.
I'm afraid Joan hasn't had much experience in having fun, Jerry. Euclidia isn't a funny place.
No, Mother. Until you and Jerry and the captain came to this island, I had never heard anyone laugh as you do. These Euclideans only laugh when they're watching someone suffer or planning some terrible thing to do.
Now, dear, you're not going to worry any more about all this tonight, and you must get some sleep. Tex, you and Jerry say good night and go to your cabin. I want a few moments alone with Joan, and she's very tired, aren't you, dear?
Oh, no, Mother. I am not at all tired.
Oh, sure you are. Your eyes look like 2 fried holes in a blanket.
Fried holes? In a blanket? How can you fry...
Skip it. I'm sorry I started it. Good night, Joan. Good night, Mrs. Gregory.
Good night, Jerry.
Good night, Pat and Joan. Jerry will take turns with me on deck tonight, so don't worry. See you in the morning. Night.
Good night, Tex. Jerry.
Gee, Tex, they've got that funny yellow light all over the island again. You can hardly see.
That's what we're up against, kid. That weird yellow light all over this island is a pretty good example of how much we can see of what's ahead of us.
You're right, sir. We can't see a thing.
Into the mysterious South Pacific Ocean sailed the magnificent yacht of Mrs. Patricia Gregory. Captain Tex Bradford, her business manager, and young Jerry Hall went with her in search of Mrs. Gregory's little daughter, Joan. The Gregory yacht is now held to the strange Isle of Euclidia, and all on board are prisoners of G-47 and his colony of scientists. Joan has spent her first night on board the yacht, away from the weird scientists who have raised her in ignorance of the outside world. The Gregory party is just leaving the yacht for their first daylight view of the island.
Well, the island looks a lot different in the daylight.
Everything sparkles just as if it had been polished.
Does someone have to shine that stuff all the time, Joan?
No, Jerry. The whole surface of the island, except the stone we are walking on, is made of some metal that never tarnishes. These buildings have looked exactly the same as long as I can remember, and they are never touched.
It certainly is an island of wonders, even if they are terrible wonders.
They won't be so terrible when we get back to our world with them.
I'm afraid, Captain Bradford, that will never be done.
Have there been many prisoners like ourselves, dear?
A great many, and those who tried to escape are nowhere now.
Gee, didn't they all try to escape?
Oh, no. Most of the Euclideans started as prisoners, but they are as bad as the scientists now.
I can't imagine anyone wanting to become a party to the scientific horrors being created here.
What could the scientists offer these prisoners as a reward for staying and working with them?
I've heard some of them talking, and most of them were people who were not satisfied with their life in the world or their position in it. And G-47 has promised each of them a state or a country to rule for their own if they will help him finish his experiments.
This thing is terrific, Patricia. It means world conquest and a world of slaves if we can't prevent it.
You are right, Captain.
Well, let's quit guessing and let Joan explain some of the things she knows for sure about this island.
Yes, G-47 gave you permission to take us around the island and explain it, Joan. But don't tell us anything you shouldn't.
Right. No sense in your getting punished for showing us too much.
You need not worry about that. The places I can take you into, you could walk through without me, and the others...
Well, we'll touch only the things you tell us to. But before we go into any of the buildings, there's something I want to know. Something about this concrete or stone that we've been walking on.
I know about that. You want to know why your shoes make no sound when you walk on this surface.
You bet we want to know. Pretty near scared us to death when we were walking around in the dark here last night, and we couldn't even hear our shoes hit this stone.
It felt as if we were walking on a heavy carpet, yet this is smooth and hard as cement.
I know how that is done. They made this island out of stone, or something hard like stone. Then they painted it with the noiseless paint.
A true soundproof paint. Pat, when I get back to the States and take that formula to the studios, I'll be rich.
Hey, wait a minute.
What happened, Jerry?
Oh, nothing happened, but I just got something you said.
What did I say?
Well, you said when they made this island. You just mean when they fixed up the top of it, don't you?
Not at all. G47 explained the construction of this island quite lucidly. A hidden coral reef was utilized as a base, and the island gradually built up from the sea floor. The coral was used to form this hard substance we are walking on. So it is quite obvious, Jerry. They made the island.
But that would have taken years and an army of men.
How many people are there on this island?
I think 250.
Golly whiskers. Where do they keep 'em?
There can't be more than a dozen of these little steel buildings on the island, and I know most of these are radio rooms and defense chambers. Where are the people?
Everyone lives on the lower levels, and most of them work there.
Lower levels? How far down does this thing go?
There are 10 levels below us, 100 feet.
Gee whiz.
Gee whiz is very good at this time, Jerry.
100 feet deep. And about 1,000 feet across, eh, Joan?
The main circular part of the island is 600 feet in diameter. It is 800 feet between the control houses halfway out on the piers and 1,000 feet to the ends of the piers.
Then those piers are 200 feet long. How many of 'em are there?
12 piers and 8 submarines.
Huh? 8 what?
Submarines?
Why, this is a complete fortress.
Where are the submarines now?
They are kept between the piers, deep in the water. You enter them from the 50-foot level.
Submarines anchored 8 fathoms down, and you board them there. Oh, this is so big it's hard to believe. And think of the damage they could do to the world.
Well, what are these little bowl-shaped places on the island floor or roof or whatever this thing we're walking on is called?
It is called the roof when we are up here and the ceiling when we are under it.
There you are, Pat.
I deserved it. What are these little bowls, Joan, dear?
It is in those we have our palm garden during the safe days.
What do you mean, safe days?
When there is no ship near us and the fog ring is let down, the sun comes in, and then we grow a palm garden.
You grow a palm tree garden in these holes when you want it?
Well, that is a comparatively elementary demonstration. The chief agriculturist puts a small quantity of chemical soil in these receptacles, exposes them briefly to the light of sub-ultraviolet ray, then plants palm seeds in them, and in approximately 280 seconds, the island is suitably shaded by palm trees of mature growth.
Oh, boy, oh, boy.
Have you actually seen that happen, Joan?
Certainly, Mother. When the ocean is free of danger and the governing body wishes to train the colony in conduct in worldly agriculture.
But what if a ship were to come upon you suddenly, or an airplane fly over? It would take time to get rid of those trees.
Only a few seconds, Captain. Just some other chemical put upon them, and in a moment they are only minute piles of vegetable ash in the bowls. Then the fog cloud is thrown around the island while that is happening. The magnetic ring is turned on, and ships pass by without even suspecting the existence of Euclidia.
It's almost too much to believe, my dear, but we know some of it is true, so the rest is more plausible.
Well, we had one boat that didn't pass the island without knowing it was here.
The Euclideans were watching you all the time, and G47 became afraid you might sail away in the night when you were released from the fog ring. So then he ordered the tractive magnets turned on to pull your yacht to the island.
How strong are those magnets?
I am not sure I can quote it accurately, but the design of the necessary strength in those magnets is based on Maxwell's fundamental equation for the pull. And that must be at
Hey,
least
not so fast. Even if you know all that, I don't want to hear it. All I want to know is how large a boat they will pull to the island, and how far at sea this pull may be felt.
I know that some boats have been pulled in which were longer than the piers and had to be destroyed at once as the fog ring would not conceal them.
Jiminy Christmas.
What happened to the people on those boats?
Some of them have joined the scientists in their work, and the others... Oh, I have heard terrible things.
My poor
Oh,
child.
don't you worry, Joan. We'll get you out of this quick.
I don't know how quick, Jerry, but we'll get out all right.
Here is the room where we make our dresses each day for the next day.
Well, you didn't make one last night.
No, and you looked very charming in one of my dresses, dear.
And even if the material of your dress didn't do us any good last night, the time will come when that material will save our lives, and possibly more than that.
I do not see how that can be. It is a pretty and useful cloth, but after all, just a cloth.
True, dear, but with a cloth that will shield us from the light and sound waves of these scientists, we can secure a little privacy, and Jerry and Tex will try to plan our escape.
We will go in the cloth mill now. And remember, do not ask too many questions. if you have the opportunity to ask any.
Gee whiz! This is the noisiest place I was ever in. And we couldn't hear a sound from the outside.
The walls are treated with the soundproof paint.
Those machines certainly make an awful clatter.
That doesn't seem right to me. With all the other things this bunch has figured out, why don't they silence those machines?
I'll bet they can't stop the noise.
I'll bet they can stop it.
You are right, Captain. These machines are kept noisy for a good reason.
Just to give the people headaches?
No, to keep the Euclideans hearing normal.
G47 hasn't overlooked a bet, has he?
I don't understand it. What value has all this noise? I should think it would be easier on the ears and nerves and everything else to have them run quietly.
I sure don't get it, Tex.
Joan said it was to keep their hearing normal. That means that nearly everything on this island is perfectly silent. And if the people here were never to hear a sound except their own voices, they would soon lose part of the art of hearing. They would not be able to distinguish one sound from another.
Many men have come here, Captain Bradford, but no one else has ever grasped the true reason for these things as you do. I can see why G47 wanted you here.
I understand it now, and you are a clever man, Tex. These men here were really afraid to have you continue your experiments in our world. They wanted your brain here. That's why the yacht was allowed to reach the island.
Well, we came to find Joan, and we got her. So never mind how we got to the island. And if Tex is smart enough, if these guys are afraid of him, then he's smart enough to get us out of this.
I hope you're right, Jerry, but I don't feel very smart right now. Show us how the machine works, will you, Joan?
You will notice that large hopper at the intake side of the room, where they are putting the Macrocystis perifera in. That is just ordinary seaweed taken from any kelp bed.
Then that wonderful cloth is made from seaweed?
Gosh, these fellas are plenty smart, all right.
The seaweed is ground up there. Then it goes through all these other machines where they do things to it which I do not understand. Then it comes out on those rollers ready to make dresses of. I do know, however, that before it comes out as you see it, it has gone down to one of the lower levels to a secret laboratory. I have never seen that.
And I'll bet that's where it gets soaked with the sound and light-proof liquid.
If we could only get our hands on some of that liquid.
Right, boy. We could cover the yacht with it and get out of here.
Why, the machinery, the noise has stopped. Has something happened?
I have never known it to stop at this time of day before.
I'll bet it's our fault. Do you think they could hear us talking through all that noise?
Probably if they wanted to, but why stop the machinery?
The alarm. That gong is only rung when someone is trying to escape from the island. Strokes. That means near Pier 5. Your yacht is anchored at Pier 5, Mother. Someone must be trying to escape from your yacht.
I'll bet the skipper's trying to take a rowboat out.
Boy, I hope he makes it.